W.
Welcome back to Cohort W, the podcast where we explore the legacy, leadership, and future of the United States Army Warrant Officer Cohort. I'm your host, Chief Warrant Officer 4, Jesse Moreland, and today we bring you part 2 of Season 4's second episode titled Modernizing Warrant Officer PME with Chief Warrant Officer 5, Carlos Terrones. In part 1, we heard from Chief Terrones, Command Chief Warrant Officer of the Combined Arms Center, who broke down how PME is being restructured to meet the demands of tomorrow's fight. Today, he's back to follow up on what's progressed, what's launching, and how feedback from the force is shaping what's next. But education alone doesn't build the bench. That's why we brought in 2 more influential leaders to round out this discussion on transformation, because preparing warrant officers for the future also means recruiting them, guiding them, and retaining them through every stage of leadership. Joining us is Chief Warrant Officer 4 Kent Frye, Commander of the Warrant Officer Recruiting Company Active Component, who oversees national efforts to identify, assess, and onboard the next generation of warrant officer talent. His work directly influences the caliber and readiness of tomorrow's PME students. And we're honored to be joined by Chief Warrant Officer 5 Aaron Anderson, the Chief Warrant Officer of the Army. From his seat, he serves as the Principal Advisor to Army leadership on all matters related to the Warrant Officer Cohort: education, policy, accessions, and long-term strategy. He's helping connect every effort across the enterprise to ensure unity of effort as the cohort evolves. Chief Terrones, welcome back to Cohort W. How are things today, and are you able to share a little bit about the event that the group is attending?
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll tell you that it's been a great week. I'm here at Sustainment Week with the CASCOM and Sustainment Center of Excellence. A lot of great dialogue with the senior leaders and the warrant officer cohort within this community, getting after current challenges and what's coming across our Army in terms of transformation initiative and efforts.
Let's pick up where we left off. There's been a lot of movement since your last appearance, and listeners are eager to hear what's changed. Since your last episode, the Army's efforts to modernize Warrant Officer PME have accelerated. Can you share any major updates, pilot courses, or milestones? And what's been most exciting to see come to life?
Yep, thank you for the question. And I'll say what a phenomenal investment that our Army is making into the warrant officer training to deepen our technical expertise to ensure that we are prepared for multi-domain, large-scale combat operations. I'd like to highlight the aviation COE in a pilot course that they are executing now. The aviation COE has rolled out what they are calling Flight School Next. They currently have 2 classes, 8 students each, participating in a commercial helicopter training course out of Marianna, Florida, which will inform how we train future aviators at Fort Novasol. The aviation COE won't 100% replicate what they are training in Florida, but may incorporate the best of the commercial and military training models. The students in this pilot course are flying single-engine commercial trainers and then will progress to their Fade to Green course in early August, where they will be introduced to Army regulations and tactical flying. So far, student feedback has been extremely positive, and this is exactly the creative training that we need to get after as a cohort to ensure that deeper technical expertise from the start. This is our WOBC students that are participating in this pilot course. And again, phenomenal to see and really excited to hear the outcomes as aviation does their assessment on how effective the training was and exactly what parts will be incorporated into the Warrant Officer Basic course into the future. I'll also share one thing that I'm very excited to see come to life, and that is something really simple, really basic. It is the ATAR scheduling, and ATAR's class calendars and schedules are now loaded for warrant officers to go in and start requesting seats into our modernized courses, meaning the system of record now reflects this significant multi-year efforts, and it is going to come to fruition here in October. So really excited to see that we've made it to this point.
That's incredible progress, sir. So as a modernization rolls forward, one thing I know you emphasize is responsiveness to the field. How are you ensuring that feedback from students, instructors, and units is actively shaping the redesign? And are there specific lessons you've already applied to improve course content or delivery?
I'll start off by saying this has truly been a significant team effort. And I'll highlight what the Warrant Officer Career College and the Centers of Excellence are doing. First and foremost, feedback from the students is critical to this modernization effort and to our ongoing training content and the courses. So if you're getting ready to go PME, or you recently graduated and you're listening to this podcast, I would recommend continue being part of the feedback loop, whether that's as a student with the end of course critiques, or once you get back to the unit and you realize you could use more training in a specific module or maybe a topic that wasn't even touched on, but it's really needed for the job you're doing today. That type of feedback loop is critical to ensure that we get the training right now and also for those that are coming later in future generations. A continuous feedback loop is critical. But the Warrant Officer Career College with the COEs has continuously shared the POI amongst the schools to ensure that we are reducing duplicate training. In other words, what we want to do is build upon the common course training that the Warrant Officer Career College is executing. And in many cases, the COEs, certain MOSs will need to build upon it. And so we want to ensure that the branches know the extent that the topic is being trained so that they could then pick it up and continue building on that training specific to the MOS. So that is something that's ongoing and we are looking how to make that a continuous process. And then I'll share that how have we already improved course content or delivery in this modernization effort. We've taken the feedback from students of various courses, not just in terms of POI and the content within that POI, but also course length, for example. So I'll give an example to what I like to call a good news story. We have some courses that are PCS length courses. However, many of the students do not take their families to these courses because the courses are maybe 5.5 months long in some cases. So as part of this modernization effort, we looked at how can we reduce the burden on the students who are maintaining dual households for the duration of the courses. What was done by certain COEs and branches was they phased the course and split the course between two different locations to get the best that each location has to offer in terms of equipment or content or expertise, while also removing the PCS requirement. So now those courses are TD-wide courses, allowing the individual to no longer be hindered financially attending these courses. That's pretty significant when you think about W1s attending WOBC and the financial burden that was placed on them. We were able to resolve some of it. I'll share that, like I stated in the last podcast, that I don't believe we got this 100% perfect. There will be definitely room for improvement. So going back to the first part of the question, the feedback loop, where we don't have it right, we really want to hear from the students, the instructors, to ensure that we continue refining and improving these courses well past the time that we are in these positions. We should be in continuous state of improvement because there will always be new technology, new doctrine, new organizations that are in development, and we need to best posture our cohort to ensure success in the ever-changing environment that we are currently in.
Let's shift now to a quick-fire question from our listeners. This episode's quick-fire question comes from Sergeant First Class Bill Flitter, a senior training developer at the United States Army School of Music. The question is, for the warrant officers who have already completed the current Level 2 Warrant Officer Advanced course, what's next for them in fiscal year 26? Do they attend the new Warrant Officer Advanced course or proceed to the Warrant Officer Senior course?
So that's a really good question. I'm glad we're talking about a specific example. Now, I mentioned in the last episode that we retained the name of Warrant Officer Advanced course. Today, that is a Level 2 course. In FY26, it's going to be a Level 3 course. What's different about the FY26 version of the Warrant Officer Advanced course is now there is a Common Core portion at Fort Novosol as part of the course, followed by a technical follow-on course, which all of our Warrant Officer MOSs have approved for FY26 and resourced. So in that scenario, it's a two-part response. The first part is an individual in that situation should expect to attend the Warrant Officer Advanced Course Common Core at Fort Novosol, a phase of training that they have not received yet in today's Warrant Officer Advanced Course structure. That's the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer is regarding the technical course. It really comes down to what the branch did with their FY26 Advanced Course technical phase. If they retain all or most of the critical tasks from today's advanced course, then the branch really needs to determine what does that individual need to do in FY26. Do they need to attend again, or do they get constructive credit because they accomplished all of the critical tasks in the current advanced course? So to help with that type of scenario, in staffing today is a policy from the Army G357 to address male prerequisites. It's a male prerequisite waiver exord to allow the branches this flexibility that I'm referring to address the scenario of a advanced course graduate, maybe a senior W2, and what do they do next? We want to ensure that our cohort and the branches that facilitate our courses are giving the most flexibility possible to ensure good decisions are made for the individual concerned and also the resources required to bring people into these courses.
Looking forward, let's talk what's next. As we head into fiscal year 26 and beyond, what changes should the force expect, especially in terms of technical course structures, assessments, or delivery models?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we are always looking at what's next. And I would say one thing that I'd like to highlight, while it's not being implemented yet in FY26, in FY27, a new course for specific W5 positions, the Warrant Officer Master Course will become effective. So after we initiate all of our courses from basic course, intermediate course, advanced course, senior course in FY26, the final course that we will implement, the Warrant Officer Master Course, will go into effect in 27. So that's coming. That's still in development, what the content will look like. So if you have comments, feedback out there in the field of what would be appropriate content for some of our most senior W5 positions, please do submit that feedback. I would recommend that Warrant Officer Career College, the COEs, would be a good place to start with that feedback. And in terms of course structure, delivery modules, we're always looking to innovate and leverage technology. I would say the Warrant Officer Career College has done a really good job with allowing for virtual learning for some of the courses. We want to continue to build upon that, continue to look at what new ways can we deliver the training while still achieving the same or maybe better effect for the students. So a lot of opportunities are out there that the Army is exploring. And so really looking to tie in with the Warrant Officer cohort and our courses into the efforts made by the Army to ensure our cohort benefits. And in many cases, that will help where by leveraging the virtual learning, for example, in some cases it's a challenge for a warrant officer, whether it be OCONUS, maybe it's an MDA or CPU warrant officer. That will be another opportunity for them to achieve the appropriate level of PME without the TDY requirements. So we're looking at how can we also unburden the cohort with some of the training requirements as well. A long way to say, still a lot of work to do in this space, but with technology, I believe we can make some significant improvements into the future.
Chief Terrones, thank you, sir, for that outstanding information. So let's shift now to the talent pipeline, because we can't modernize education without a strong flow of future warrant officers ready to train and lead. Chief Frye, welcome to Cohort W.
Hi, I'm Chief Frye, CW4 Frye, the commander of Warrant Officer Recruiting. I've been doing this job for 3 years, and we've been pretty successful. We've got a good pipeline and a good future vision of how we want to do the accessions program, and working with proponents and regimentals throughout the branch, all branches. It has made my job and their job easier.
PME modernization is only as strong as the pipeline that fuels it. What are some of the biggest accessions, challenges, and successes you're seeing, and which MOSs are still in critical need of applicants?
Talking with applicants around, even warrant officers, not just applicants, but warrant officers around the cohort, I've realized that the modernization of the PME is directly tied to the quantity and quality of applicants we are getting, because the warrant officers that are in the field are talking about, it's like the new shiny nickel. Everybody's excited about the new PME, so it sort of recharges their batteries. So they're like, they want to stay in a little longer, but that enthusiasm carries over to the applicants that sees their warrant officers excited again, or being excited and really want to do their job really well every day. So it's really nice to see that this is the new modern PME is coming out, because it's been years in the making, but it's really nice to see the warrant officers want to actually go to PME instead of taking their time, not going to it just to slow roll it, they say. What I've seen with the shortages of the MOSs, obviously 153 with the new ADSO 3 years ago to 10 years. We're still getting the number of packets, but that will always be our number one thing. We need aviation. Cyber and MI, knowing that the companies out there see what type of certificates our soldiers get now at their basic and AITs and all their other NCOIs they're luring them away with money and benefits, and that's what we see as a challenge. But with the modernization of this PME, they're getting those certificates and being relevant again in their MOSs.
It's clear we've got both obstacles and opportunities. I'd like to ask next about messaging and whether modernization is making an impact with prospective candidates. So as PME evolves, how are applicants responding to that vision? Are they seeing long-term value in joining the cohort? And how are you framing that message to align with their career expectations?
When I talk to applicants in the field about their career path and the gates they have to hit to become competitive and to make it to that 30 years, because it's pretty awesome talking to applicants, not just staying in till 20 anymore. They're thinking 30 and beyond. They're not thinking, I'm going to get out 20 years in one day. They're actually talking to me about year 30 and what to expect past that time. And hitting these career gates in the modernization of the PME is pretty amazing to see what type of certificates and the money that the battalions, brigades, and corps have for officers, including warrant officers, to go to these courses compared to the enlisted side that they would never get if they stayed on the enlisted side. So we're seeing a lot more people thinking of the long run instead of just the 20-year mark at this point.
Do you have any additional information for our listeners that might encourage some of our outstanding NCOs to seek an opportunity in becoming a member of our warrant officer cohort?
Yeah, just if you're interested in going warrant, please check out our website, thegowarrantnow.com. It goes over every form. Call one of the contacts. We have 23 recruiters around the world that are willing to take their time, no matter day or night. They'll answer your phone. A phone call, answer all your questions, and they're just professional people, and that's all it takes. Some people just don't know what they don't know, and my recruiters are subject matter experts in their field.
Well, Chief Frye, thank you very much for that information. Let's shift now to the Chief Warrant Officer of the Army, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Aaron Anderson. Sir, thank you for joining us. It's an honor to have you on the show again.
Well, Chief Moreland, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And this is a really good venue. And I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit. As I go out and I talk to folks across the formations, what I hear often is, hey, I heard this on the Cohort W podcast, or I heard that on the Cohort W podcast. So I think your efforts are really having an impact. And I was wondering if you could provide me with some statistics on where we're at in terms of demographics we're reaching across the globe.
Absolutely, sir. As of today, Cohort W is approaching 25,000 downloads from our 64 published episodes. We're reaching 73 countries and over 1,800 cities. This episode will be our 65th, and we feel sure that we'll surpass the 25,000 download mark in a couple of weeks. We definitely want to thank our listeners for their continued support and encourage them to keep sharing awareness of the Cohort W podcast with their professional networks. And thank you, sir, for your continued support and for providing another opportunity to share our good news.
Well, it's my pleasure. And again, congratulations on the success that you're having.
Thank you again, sir. All right, let's shift back now and talk a little bit about strategic integration, accessions, and PME. So as the Chief Warrant Officer of the Army, you have a unique and comprehensive view of how all the pieces of the Warrant Officer cohort come together, from accessions to PME to talent alignment. From your perspective, what is your vision for the future of the cohort, and how are you driving unity of effort across the components, branches, and commands to get us there?
Well, thank you very much for that question. It's a good question. I would say going back to last July, as I first took the seat, we really looked at a vision, and that vision was to cultivate a healthy, stable, technically deep warrant officer cohort that's postured to meet the future demands of the Army, whatever those may be. And so I think that still stands. But what I think I do is maybe reframe the question that you asked. And I don't think it's the cohort changing for the sake of the cohort. I think the question is, how is the cohort aligning to drive the Army transformation initiatives that have been recently rolled out? What are we doing as warrant officers at the tactical edge in terms of UAS, counter-UAS, EW, long-range fires, things like that? What are we doing to enable transformation? And then what can we do in areas like additive manufacturing or data-driven maintenance to speed up that Army transformation? How can we help the Army identify and eliminate activities that don't produce lethality or are redundant? I think at its core, the cohort exists to integrate complex systems and processes as well as technologies. I think the technical vision moving forward is ensuring Army warrant officers are fixed on making our formations more combat ready and lethal.
Absolutely, sir. So you've spoken in multiple forums about the importance of preparing the cohort for the future fight, not just by changing curriculum, but by evolving how we think, lead, and develop talent. What strategic guidance or mindset shift do you believe warrant officers across the Army need to adopt as we modernize? And what role does leadership at every level play in reinforcing that transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of the mindset shift, change is here. If we look at the Army Transformation Initiative that was rolled out earlier this week, warrant officers really need to embrace change and be agents of positive change in whatever formations they're in. And thinking across the different branches and MOSs, I think about our 150 uniforms, our UAS technicians. And if I use that as a venue, I think about the divestiture of the UAS platforms that we currently fly. And so what does that mean for them moving into the future? And I think, we have to embrace new technology in terms of short-range reconnaissance, medium-range reconnaissance. We need to embrace new tasks within that MOS. Maybe there's an airspace component that wasn't there before, or maybe there's additional EW roles that we haven't experimented with in the past. And I just think we need to embrace change at all echelons and across all formations in which that MOS serves. But I think as a vignette, that applies to a lot of different branches and MOSs across the operational force. I would say we can't be resistant to change. And as warrant officers, we need to help the Army understand what could be or should be as we move into the future. Again, that's across all technical specialties as well as our aviators.
Thank you, sir. Let's bring this all together with one final question for each of you. From your unique lens, whether it's modernizing PME, recruiting future leaders, or steering the strategic vision of the entire cohort, what's one priority or principle we must lock in right now to ensure the warrant officer cohort is trained, trusted, and ready for the Army of 2030 and beyond? Chief Terrones?
Yeah, thank you for the question and the opportunity to lead off. I'll build on Chief Anderson's comments about transformation. The cohort is uniquely built to get the Army through this period of transformation and the continuous change that we're going to experience. I would say the one principle would be continuously being a student of the profession. I've talked a lot about PME modernization, institutional training, one part of the leader development domain. The second part is the operational domain, the experience that warrant officers, soldiers get at the unit of assignment, the challenges they work through at that assignment, and build upon their expertise. I also want to highlight the self-development domain. To ensure we remain technical experts amidst all this change, new technology, new equipment, new doctrine, new organizations, we must invest into the self-development, professional reading, professional writing, learning about our profession, our MOS, to ensure we remain the most competent technical expert for our Army, particularly as we transition to multi-domain large-scale combat operations, less civilians on the battlefield during OIF, OEF. The warrant officer will be the technical expert in some of the most challenging environments. And to ensure we are fully ready for that, we must invest in self-development, being a student of the profession. Thank you for that question.
And thank you, sir. Let's hand the mic over now to Chief Frye.
When talking to applicants that are applying, I ask why they want to apply. I see several packets. Even though I'm the commander of the unit, a lot of people still come to me for guidance. And they always talk about the change. They want to be the change. They get to put their imprint into their cohort, their branch. when they're talking about change. The older ones of us are scared of change. A lot of people don't like it, but the younger ones I see that are putting in their packets, they want to build their legacy over the next 20, 30 years as a warrant officer and go back just how we talk about OIF-1 and Afghanistan, Iraq. They want to say, hey, I helped develop that. That's what they want. They're excited about change, and once they do it once, it'll be smoother and smoother throughout their career.
Thank you, sir. Let's pass the mic now to Chief Warrant Officer of the Army, Chief Anderson.
Yeah, again, this has been a great session, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. I would say if I had a guiding principle, it would be stay flexible to stay lethal. As warrant officers, we need to be ruthless in prioritizing what is important for Army transformation. This isn't business as usual. This is probably a time of change like we haven't seen in maybe 60 or 70 years from my perspective. As warrant officers, we need to focus on eliminating waste and outdated equipment and processes across all of our formations. We need to look for ways to infuse technology into our systems and processes that makes us better as occupational specialties, as branches, and as an Army. The battlefield is certainly changing, and we have to change to make sure that we're able to meet the future needs of the Army across all the warfighting functions. And we need to be those technical integrators and experts as Army warrant officers. Thanks, Chief Moreland.
And thank you, sir. Chief Terrones, Chief Frye, Chief Anderson, again, thank you all for joining us today. Your perspectives connect the dots between strategic modernization and individual leadership. From the classroom to the recruiting station to the Pentagon, these efforts are building the bench that will lead the Army through tomorrow's fight.
So thank you for this opportunity to talk with you and really the cohort at large that's listening in. I would recommend, if you are not PME complete, take a look at ATARs for your MOS, see what courses are out there, what the timelines are that we've discussed during this and the past podcast, and ensure you are ready to go PME at the right time. If you are in doubt, then reach out to the branch and ask the question. The feedback is critical. I said it before, this is probably an 80% solution. We have room for improvement, so your feedback really matters. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for this great opportunity. I consider this the S1 net for the warrant officer cohort. If you're AG, you know what S1 net is, and you're listening to your podcast, and I've re-listened to them several times because you're always on the most current stuff. You're not talking about super older stuff. You're modernizing what everybody wants to hear and do everything. And thank you so much for this great opportunity.
I would say that this summer our Army is celebrating its 250th birthday. And so for anybody listening across our camps, posts, and stations, I would say get involved in activities that highlight our Army across the past 250 years and all the great things that are going on currently as we transform our Army. This will defend. Thank you.
And to everyone listening, this is the time to lean in. Whether you're a prospective applicant, a PME instructor, or a senior warrant officer shaping doctrine, your voice matters in this transformation. This has been Cohort W, where the future of our cohort is shaped one conversation at a time. Until next time, stay ready, stay focused, and always lead from the front.